It's day 7 of 365, and I took yesterday off. Why? This weekend was kind of a shit show, but I did get one big thing in. I got the art copies sent out to advanced readers for extraction. With Frostbitten, I only had 22 ARC readers, and I really do feel like that kind of slowed down my initial buzz going into it. So I have 54 for extraction, and I'm really hoping to see a little bit more traction as we go into that. But it's a little bit of a nerve-wracking process because it's the first time that you're really handing your book to someone that's completely outside your control. They're not promising you anything. They're not guaranteed to do anything. You're literally taking this thing you worked for a long time on and handing it over to them. So yeah, that's kind of terrifying. But it's also kind of exciting because, the book's out there. People are getting their hands on it. They're actually going to get to read it. So, yeah. One of the things I wanted to talk about this week was the ebbs and flows of my media consumption, which is kind of a pretentious way of saying sometimes I just don't really feel like reading. Sometimes all I want to do is read. I will get up in the morning, I'll read while I'm eating my breakfast. I'll read during lunch. I'll read on breaks during work. I'll read while I'm waiting for projects to render. I'll read every single chance that I get. But sometimes it is a struggle to pick up any book, and it has nothing to do with the books that I'm reading. It's just my motivation. And sometimes it's because my desire for media is drifting between one form or another. Like sometimes I'm really in the mood to just sit down and binge like half of Supernatural. Sometimes I'm in the mood to play through Mass Effect for the 19th time. But I don't know. I've really been struggling to get through some books lately, but I have 4 review copies that I need to go ahead and burn through. So we're really going to buckle down over this next week and knock those 4 books out. So hopefully that'll help kind of kick me out of the mud and get me moving again. Had to come back inside. I like the idea of doing like stream of consciousness recording when I'm out walking the dogs, when I'm out and about, but it does become a little bit difficult, especially with just one arm. If I have to hold the leash, if I have to hold the dog's leash, it can be difficult to wait until they stop and are busy sniffing around to quickly hold the phone up and let them do their business while I record a quick segment. So we're going to come back in for this. The funny thing is, I don't actually think the lulls in my reading have ever come about because I really hated a book. A lot of times, if I finish a book and it just really didn't click for me, I'm eager to move on to something that's going to make me really excited to read. Instead, I've actually found that when I read a book that I deeply, deeply love, that I like just get wildly into, those are often the times that I'll finish that up and I really won't have much motivation to pick up the next book that I'm reading. And I think that the reason is the really good books can put kind of a spell on you. They can kind of make you feel whatever that author is intending for you to feel. And when that happens and when it works, it is goddamn magical. And I do often feel like moving to the next book on the list is going to break that spell. It's going to kind of disrupt that idea. And so there's part of me that I think maybe wants to linger with that emotion a bit more. And I will tell you, the last book that I really, really got into was Kate Page's The Funny Girl, which I've mentioned before as my favorite book that I've read this year. I've now read it twice. And it's extraordinary. It's not like anything I've ever read. I don't read a lot of romance. And this is a romance that has some real teeth to it. It genuinely comes at its storytelling from the perspective of being relentless with the reader, building the tension of this, I don't want to say doomed relationship, but a relationship where the challenges that are involved in it are very, very upfront for the reader, and you get to watch these individuals clash into those challenges and figure out how to navigate them and how they're going to take the next step forward when, by all accounts, everything is stacked against them. Kate Page's Funny Girl is the best book I've read this year. It's astonishing. You should definitely check it out. When it comes to breaking a lull in my reading, honestly, the best way I do it is... It is a terrible, terrible analogy, but it's kind of the way that a lot of couples reinvigorate their love life, which is to schedule it. Normally I don't have to schedule reading. Normally it is just part of what I do when I'm not doing anything else. If I've got a lull in my day, I pick up the book and I read the next 2-3 pages, and that's just easy for me to do. But when I'm struggling to get that motivation, it really can help to kind of say, okay, 15 minutes at the end of each night, at least 15 minutes, maybe 30, I'm going to set the phone aside, I'm going to set aside TikTok and writing and everything else, sit down and genuinely zero in on reading, getting through as many pages, as many chapters as I can in that dedicated time. And, it's about starting that momentum. It's about, that car stuck in the mud that if you just try it in fits and starts, you're not going anywhere. But if you really, really give it a little bit of momentum, it can sometimes jump it loose and it can actually start rolling on its own. And that's genuinely how I've managed to bust out of it. So that's what we're going to be doing for the next week. I'm actually going to be blocking out 30 minutes each day that I'm going to do nothing but sit down, open the book that I'm working on, and read. And we're going to see how that helps. I will say this, the one piece of advice I agree with, but have trouble sticking with myself, is I genuinely do believe that if you find yourself in the position where you're just not feeling like reading, give yourself a little bit of grace. Have some patience for yourself, because there are 1,000 things that can contribute to us not being motivated to engage with a story. And sometimes it can have nothing to do with reading. Sometimes it could just be all the crap going on in your life kind of piles up, and you find yourself in the position of just not having the mental bandwidth for it. The reason I have trouble kind of following that advice is that I have a TBR that has a lot of indie books on it, and I love reading indie books, and I love finding the really great ones and putting out reviews for them and doing what I can to help people find these books. And so when I'm not reading, there's very much a voice in the back of my head that's saying that I'm letting people down, which that's my own issue. I don't think anybody else should follow that. But with that, I'll go ahead and bring today to a close, and I will see you all tomorrow.